ancestors didn't slave and sweat and toil and all that hard work that they did for Joanne Reed to have a job. She's from the Congo. They worked for Black Americans to have jobs. They did all that for Black Americans, not people from the Congo who are first generation Americans. Not even Kamala Harris, who's Indian American and Jamaican.
Right.
My ancestors didn't work for Kamala Harris to have these benefits. They worked for Black Americans to have benefits. I think even Obama is not even a Black American. This is why using color, the skin color, is not sufficient.
It's American experience.
It's confusing.
Right.
And this is why I say white Americans and Black Americans have been in America the longest since its founding. And that is significant. That matters. That history matters. And so this is why, and I don't know why so many, and I want to get into this issue about Black women, Black American women supporting. I know it's nonprofit, but Black American women don't understand most of them, some do, but most of them don't understand. They think everything is about skin color. And that's a superficial analysis of the situation. They're not looking at the history. They don't know the history. And they're just so wedded to the political left position, embracing all of their policies. And their policies have been detrimental to Black America. They need to get away from that embrace of all these policies that are the detriment. So what I'm thinking, they're not doing their homework. They're not reading this cast your bucket where you are. Cast down your bucket where they're not reading this history. They're being superficial. They're just watching the television and going along with what the politicians say. That is not sufficient.
Sometimes one of the most prime groups that can be deceived the most is Black folk. I'm not saying all Black people, but if you look at us according to the masses, we can be the most easily deceived because sometimes we cannot see the truth because we end up making skin color God and not the truth of God's word, and it blocks people from seeing what God is saying in the moment.
I never dreamed that I would have to face the prospect of not living in the United States of America, at least not the one I've known all my life. I've never wished to live anywhere else. This is my home, and I was privileged to be born here. But today I woke up, and as I had my morning coffee, I realized that everything is about to change. No matter how I vote, no matter what, I say something evil has invaded our nation, and our lives are never going to be the same. I've been confused by the hostility of family and friends. I look at people I've known all my life, so hate-filled that they agree with opinions they would never express as their own. I think I may have, entered the twilight zone. We become a nation that has lost its collective mind. You can't justify this insanity. If a guy pretends to be a woman, you're required to pretend with him. Somehow, it's un-American for the census to count how many Americans are in America. Russians influencing our elections are bad, but illegals voting in our elections are good. It was cool for Joe Biden to blackmail the president of Ukraine, but it's an impeachable offense if Donald Trump inquires about it. 20 is too young to drink a beer, but 18 is old enough to vote. People who have never owned slaves should pay slavery reparations to people who have never been slaves. People who have never been to college should pay the debts of college students who took out huge loans for their degrees. Immigrants with tuberculosis and polio are welcome, but you'd better be able to prove your dog is vaccinated. Irish doctors and German engineers who want to immigrate to the U.S. must go through a rigorous vetting process, but any illiterate gangbangers who jump the southern fence are welcome. $5 billion for border security is too expensive, but $1.5 trillion for free healthcare is not. If you cheat to get into college, you go to prison, but if you cheat to get into the country, you go to college for free. People who say there is no such thing as gender are demanding a female president. We see other countries going socialist and collapsing, but it seems like a great plan to us. Some people are held responsible for things that happened before they were born, and other people are not held responsible for what they're doing right now. Criminals are caught and released to hurt more people, but stopping them is bad because it's a violation of their rights. And pointing out all this hypocrisy somehow makes us racist. Nothing makes sense anymore. No values, no morals, and no civility. People are dying of a Chinese virus, but it's racist to refer to it as Chinese even though it began in China. We're clearly living in an upside-down world where right is wrong and wrong is right, where moral is immoral and immoral is moral, where good is evil and evil is good, where killing murderers is wrong but killing unborn babies is A-okay. Wake up, America. The great unsinkable ship, Titanic America, has hit an iceberg, is taking on water, and is sinking fast. Speak up.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to the BCV channel. I am your host, Pastor SaikoWoods. Please do the following. Please like, subscribe, share, hit the notification bell at the bottom of this video. That way, whenever I go live or post any content for you, the viewer, you will be one of the first to view it. Also, if you'd like to support this ministry financially, first and foremost, thank you, all of you, those of you who continue to support this channel, this ministry, Love, Life, and Marriage with the Woods, with your tangible expressions of love and support and prayers. We do appreciate that, and thank you so much for that. There's no obligation. You can find the links below at the bottom of this video, and you can support this ministry as you wish. Also, if you'd like to become a body lifers are those who would like to support this ministry on a normal, regular basis outside of your giving and support to your local fellowship if you have one. And if you deem this ministry, this channel, or Love, Life, and Marriage with the Woods as a blessing to you, and you would like to be a regular supporter or a body lifer, you can do that. And you can, again, just go to the bottom of this video. The links are provided for you below as well. I want to also state and say for those of you who do support this ministry through Super Chat. As you saw and as you see in the comments, and also I'm going to be asking for the moderators to periodically throughout the broadcast to encourage those who would like to support this ministry not to use the Super Chat. Do not use Super Chat in supporting this channel. Reason being and reason why is because as of late or recently, I have had my content and videos demonetized, depending on the subject matter, which nothing that I have said is in violation of any law. But anytime I talk about political issues or moral issues, YouTube, for some reason, shape, form, or fashion, either limits my revenue or they demonetize my revenue for my videos that I work and put in the hours and effort and the work to produce and provide for you, the viewers. So again, if you support this ministry, or if you have been using Super Chat, I am strongly urging you to not use that method of support. Please use the following streams of method of support. At the bottom of the video, you can use Zelle. Zelle is no cost. There's no fees attached to that. I highly recommend you use Zelle or use Cash App or Venmo. Those last two, there are fees attached to that, but nonetheless, at least it will be expedited and sent in the same time and fashion that you submit it and that you give it as well too. So again, I want to encourage you, again, for those of you who support this ministry, I first of all, thank you for doing it, but just letting you know, I've always had issues with YouTube anyway. The fact that they wait a month and a half, give or take, for content creators to receive their revenue is one thing, but then they take fees and taxes out of that as well too. So, and not only that, but if you say something or say things that they don't like, then they demonetize and ultimately deplatform you. So again, I'm asking for the body of Christ, those of you who are watching this video and watching this live stream or replay, to consider using the donation links below at the bottom of the video instead of Super Chat. Okay? Again, and I'm asking for moderators, if you don't mind, moderators, please periodically post that information that's pinned to the chat, and also on Facebook as well too. So that way those who may desire to do so will be able to do it and not have to worry about Super Chat demonetizing it and not receiving the resources or the funds that you have so graciously and freely given. And as you can see, also the numbers are being affected as well too. I've been getting reports and have been notified by some of you who watch my channel that you don't get notifications. You have not been receiving notifications. You have not been receiving any information when I go live. You may just happen to, by God's providence, just stumble upon noticing that I'm live. And so it's very difficult for me to try to manually, at a grassroots level, to inform hundreds, if not thousands of you who would normally tune in to my channel and watch my live streams. So I'm asking for those of you who are under the sound of my voice, if you have a social media account, if you're on Facebook, if you're on Twitter, if you have YouTube, share this video. Let others know about this channel. Let others know about this content, because this is going to be how we get the word out. You already see what the enemy is doing. The enemy is silencing voices, true voices that are trying to put out the message of the gospel, trying to shed light, trying to expose the tactics and the works of the enemy, and also his deeds of darkness. And so it's very difficult to do that. And again, it's just me. I don't have a team. I don't have a staff of people that I can pay to put out information, to put out emails and have an email list. Maybe one day, as the Lord wills, I may have that. But right now, what you see is what you get. So I try to put out good quality content, and I would rather you have the substance of what I say instead of all of the trinkets and bells and whistles and things like that. Those things have its place. I'm not knocking that. But I would rather devote and invest my time, effort, and resources and energy in making sure that the research that I put out and that the information that I present to you, the body of Christ, my brothers and sisters in Christ, that you at least have information that you can now hold to and hold on and chew on, and even also share with others. Because right now in this election season and this election cycle, the enemy is at work. He is definitely at work. Mainstream media is not a friend of the Christian. Not a friend of conservatives, but definitely if you are a Christian conservative, you can forget it. You can just hang that up. You're not getting any platform. You're not getting any airtime with mainstream media. And if you do, it's all for the attempt and for the express purpose and motivation to try to trap you or try to make you look bad. And this is why I encourage those of us, when you have platforms, when you are given opportunities to speak publicly, represent Christ well. That is not the time or opportunity for you to backpedal and to be unsure about your faith. You need to be as sure of your faith as you are who your mother and father is and who you are as a human being. You need to be that certain. You need to be that sure. Because the enemy is not playing. We're playing, but he's not playing. He's out for blood. As Peter says, he's like a roaring lion seeking whom he may devour. And that is his job. And he's doing a bang-up job. And so I encourage all of you, encourage those of you who are content creators or who are people with influence. And you don't have to have a mic in front of you or even sit behind a screen to have influence. Your influence is in the sphere of the people that God has placed in your life to shepherd, to lead, to feed, to guide, to raise, to rear, and then ultimately release out into this earth realm. To be change agents. Not for you to get a good job, and that has its place. Not for you to have all the things that you want, and that may have its place if God wills it to be. Our job, our mission, our goal, our aim, our assignment, our commission is to make disciples. That's it. Everything else is a distant second. Anything and everything else is a distant second. So what we are called to do should be paramount. We're called to reach the lost. We're called to engage this culture. We're not called to sit on the sideline or to tuck our heads down or to put our heads in the sand. No, we're called to be change agents. We're called to be salt and light in this world. And I encourage all of us to do that. I encourage you to support ministries and channels like this with your prayers and also tangible expressions of support as well, too. I'm encouraging you to do that. It takes money to do ministry, and also just out of appreciation for what people do, sometimes it's just nice to do that. But again, I encourage those of you, do not use Super Chat, at least for this ministry, for this channel, for obvious reasons. I have been shadow banned. You can tell that by the fact that many of you have told me you have not received notifications. When my videos are posted and I put out information, you don't receive it until maybe an hour or so into the stream, or you just happen to scroll or peruse the channel and you're able to find it there. So I'm just letting you all know that's what's going on. Again, moderators, if you be so kind throughout this stream going forward, to remind people if they decide and choose as the Lord leads them to support this ministry, do not use Super Chat. Do not use Super Chat. Those who have in the past, thank you. But if you do accidentally, appreciate it. Pray that God will allow those resources to be released. But I'm encouraging everyone to use the links below in the bottom of the description video here on how you want to support this ministry. All right. So this is part 2 of Because She's Black. You know, Kamala Harris is now about to be the so-called presumptive nominee, delegated, if you want to use those terms or whatever the case might be, for the Democrat Party. Their convention is in Chicago. Pray for the residents of Chicago. If outside of the normal mainstream media, they're not going to show you what's going on behind the scenes. They're not going to show you the protests with people who are against Israel and who are pro-Palestine. They're not going to show you black people, black folk that are tired of their communities being overrun with illegal aliens. I don't call them migrants. I call them illegal aliens, because that is what they are. They've come into this country illegally, but they've come into this country with the doors wide open, courtesy of the Biden-Harris administration that some of you are going to vote for. And as I said in part 1, I don't understand how any Christian can support a party that is godless. I don't understand how any Christian can say that they're born of the Spirit of God and support a party, a platform whose sole purpose is to usher in an agenda that is wicked. And you call yourself a Christian. You claim to be a Christian, but yet you support unchristlike, unchristian policies. And I'm going to keep saying that because it's the policies that we are looking at. I'm not talking about the person, but if the person's policies do not align with Scripture, the Word of God tells us clearly that we are not to endorse, we're not to support, we're not to bring any attention to those people in a positive way for people to now support them. No, we're to shine the light on them. We're to call out their wickedness. We're to do as Ephesians 5:11 says, we're not to participate in the unfruitful deeds of darkness, but rather we are to expose them. We don't attend their rallies. We don't attend their functions. We don't go to their conventions. We don't hand out their flyers. We don't get on phone calls and support their candidacy. None of that. Because we're called to be holy. And to be holy means that we're to be set apart. Set apart for who? For God's purpose, for God's use. We're to be set apart from this godless, wicked system. And for many of you, you act as though you don't know who you belong to. And maybe that is the case. You don't know who you belong to, because if you knew who you belong to, you will be following the things that do not align with biblical, scriptural, godly principles. In Proverbs chapter 18, verse 5, let's look at some verses, some foundational text here. Because some of you are supporting Kamala Harris because she's quote unquote black. Well, part 1 already showed you that she's not. She's not black. She never claimed to be black. She only claimed to be black when it was convenient to be black. We'll talk about that later on in the live as well too. But for the sake of this conversation, for the sake of this topic, some of you are voting for her because she's black. Some of you are voting for her because she claims to be black and therefore she's black, so I'm just going to vote her in. And these are Christians talking like this. These are professing Christians talking like the world. Because she went to an HBCU. Well, you know, white folk go to HBCUs. So that mean they black too? Rachel Dolezal went to an HBCU. We know what happened to her. Huh? Proverbs chapter 18, verse 5, the Bible says, to show partiality to the wicked is not good, nor to thrust aside the righteous in judgment. To show partiality is not good. The Bible says it is not right to acquit the guilty and or to deny justice to the innocent. That's partiality. Proverbs 28, verse 21. To show partiality is not good, because for a piece of bread, a man will transgress. In other words, you have no integrity. All someone has to do is name their price and they got you. Showing partiality is never good, yet some will do wrong for a mere piece of bread. James chapter 2, verse 1, my brethren, writing to Christians, do not hold your faith in our glorious Lord Jesus Christ with an attitude of personal favoritism. Verse 9, but if you show partiality, you are committing sin. Yeah, it's a sin to vote for someone because of skin color. It's a sin for Christians to engage in identity politics. God calls it a sin. What do you call it? Exercising your right to vote? God says you're committing sin. If you show partiality, if I show partiality, you are committing sin and are convicted by the law as transgressors. We're gone beyond what God says we're to go. We're out of bounds. We're out of order. And as I mentioned earlier, Kamala Harris and the Democrat Party, they have their DNC convention this week. Today is day 2. I believe the last day is on Thursday. And they're pulling all the stops to have people to believe and to assume and conclude that Kamala Harris is the choice. So if you followed anything and know anything about Kamala Harris, you know that she did not win not one delegate when she was running in 2020. In fact, during the Iowa primary, she had to tap out. No one, not one delegate voted for her. Not one delegate endorsed her. Not one. And now people want to believe that this woman is the prime candidate. Yeah, because Trump straight up washed Joe Biden in that debate. And they tried to hide Joe Biden for so long. But praise God and thanks be to God that Joe Biden's pride was his undoing. And now the whole world saw how much of a mental wreck this man really was and really is. They tried hiding him in the basement for far too long. He wanted to come out for air and take a walk around the block, around these social media streets, around society. Aside from him falling, riding bikes and falling, going up the stairs to Air Force One, besides walking and falling on flat surfaces, people tried to chalk it off. The Democrat Party tried to chalk it off as, oh, that's nothing. It's nothing. Really? Okay. Stood on stage with Donald Trump and got straight smoked. And they had to pull the plug on Joe Biden, metaphorically and figuratively speaking. And now we have Kamala Harris. Kamala Harris, the one who has no delegates. Now people are told to believe, oh, she's the one. She's the woman. She's who we need. This is what America deserves. We need people like Kamala Harris. And they're singing her praises. But Jill Biden can't stand Kamala Harris. There's documented evidence showing that when Kamala Harris accused Joe Biden of being a racist in their debate back in 2019, early 2020, Jill Biden would tell people close to them, F Kamala Harris, F her. How dare she call my husband a racist? Out of all the things he's done for the black community, what has he done for the black community, Jill? That's another topic for another time. But nonetheless, there's always been bad blood between them. This is what we see as a fake. What we see as a sham. What we see as a charade. That's what we see. So all the hugs and the smiles and the kisses and all that kind of stuff, Jill Biden has never gotten over the fact that Kamala Harris dragged her husband through the mud and had people accuse her husband of being a racist. Well, he is. He is. But to black people, they don't matter. Again, like I talked about last time in part 1, he can say you ain't black. He can say if you don't know whether or not you should vote for me or for Trump, you ain't black. He can tell you that he marched with the NAACP. They supported him and endorsed him. That he went and marched to try to free Nelson Mandela. All that's a lie. All that's a lie. But black folk, you just believe, you just take it. You just take it all in. You just believe it because, hey, you can't think for yourself. And they know it. The Democrat Party knows that you don't know how to think for yourself. And this is why now they're getting tired of some of you Negroes. They're getting tired of some of you. And now they're bringing in a new batch. They're bringing in a new batch of niggas. They're bringing them in from across the border. Illegally. And what they're about to do to some of you black people is put you on some reservations like they did the Native Indians. Because they have no more use of you. Because some of your eyes are opening up now, especially in Chicago. Now people are seeing how they've been duped. It took them almost over 60 years and counting to realize, oh, wait a minute. These people don't care nothing about us. These Democrats have been lying to us for decades. Yeah, now you see it. Well, it's too late now. They've taken over your communities. They've taken over your schools. They're taking over your businesses. They're taking over your homes, all of that. And now they're getting paid free money, free health care, free benefits. The jobs that you used to have, you don't have them anymore because the Mexicans got it. These illegal aliens got it. And what are you going to do? What are you going to do? They know you're not going to do anything. And so now they got you. And so now they have their DNC convention. They have their DNC convention, and one of their main draws this week for their convention is that they're giving away not free raffle tickets. No. Not free raffle tickets. Not a free drawing to get a car. Not any type of sweepstakes or anything like that. No. What they're going to give those who are part of the Democrat Party are free abortions and free vasectomies. Oh yeah. And who are their targets? Who are their main customers? Who are the gullible ones? Who are the useless idiots? Those weeds that Margaret Sanger so eloquently writes about in her books. You guessed it, black folk, dumb niggas. New York Post, August 17, 2024. Free abortions and vasectomies. 18-foot tall inflatable IUD called Frida Womb to be erected at the DNC in Chicago. Some people thought this was a joke. It's not a joke. Attendees at the Democratic National Convention in Chicago will have the opportunity to get a free abortion or vasectomy just blocks away from the event. And vasectomy appointments are filling up fast. Planned Parenthood, Great Rivers, which serves most of Missouri and part of southern Illinois, is sending a mobile health center to the Windy City's West Loop to offer reproductive services. You see how they nice it up? You see how they cute it up? You see how they craft these words? Reproductive care, reproductive services, reproductive freedom, reproductive justice, I've heard some people say. Planned Parenthood Great Rivers, which serves most of Missouri and part of southern Illinois, is sending a mobile health center to the Windy City's West Loop to offer reproductive services on Monday and Tuesday. Oh, today's the last day. You want to hurry up and try to get your baby killed, get snipped, get sterilized. Today's the deadline, black folk, because that's what they're talking about. Today's the deadline, dumb niggas. Today's the deadline. Hurry, hurry, hurry. Medication abortions are reportedly available on both days, with vasectomies being exclusively offered Monday, according to the New York Times. Vasectomies are reportedly in high demand, and there's already a waiting list. Quote, there are going to be people traveling to Chicago from all over the country, Dr. Colleen McNicholas, the chief medical officer of Planned Parenthood Great Rivers, told the paper. And I think we should be doing what we can as healthcare providers to show that what the impact of good policy and bad policy is. So they've inverted it. Bad policy is people stopping them from murdering their babies. Good policy is you having the freedom to murder your baby. The services will be provided on a sliding fee scale. Pay what you can and get the health care you need. They call killing babies health care. That's what they call it. They call killing babies, ladies and gentlemen, health care. According to the appointment reservation form, which only requires a name, date of birth, and basic contact information. Vice President Kamala Harris, who will be nominated as Democratic presidential nominee at the convention, has been outspoken in her support for abortion rights after the U.S. Supreme Court overturned Roe v. Wade, which had federally protected abortion access for half a century. And the reason why they're upset, the reason why they're mad at this overturning of Roe v. Wade was because, like I said before in part one, was because you and I, we, the taxpayer, were funding and paying for the murder of innocent babies with our tax dollars. And now it has been given over to the states to decide whether or not they want to fund abortion in their state. And Democrats are mad. That's why they're trying to repeal it. That's why they're trying to reinstate Roe v. Wade. And they're fighting for it again. Fight all they want. It's been overturned. And they're going to try to reverse it. They're going to try to reverse it. Let some of these conservative justices die or retire. And this wicked woman get in office. And then she has the power to nominate liberal, left wing. And anytime you hear liberal, left wing, just think about a wicked person, a demonic person. Just think about that. When you hear left leaning or left wing, anything like that, just think of those who are wicked, because that's what they are. That's what they are. Harris called abortion one of America's, quote, fundamental freedoms, end quote, according to a White House release announcing her fight for reproductive freedoms. Reproductive freedoms in December. Unlike previous years, abortion is expected to be a front and center issue for Democrats at the convention, according to the Times. Quote, there's a direct through line between what Donald Trump did and loss of access to abortion care, said Senator Tina Smith, Democrat of Minnesota, who previously worked for Planned Parenthood. That's just one of the reasons why people are seeing this in a kind of completely different frame than they were just 4 years ago. In addition to the mobile clinic, another group, Americans for Contraception, plans to erect an 18-foot tall inflatable intrauterine device, or IUD, named FreedomWomb, the Times reported. Other activists are planning a Hotties for Harris party, in addition to a number of other events. Meanwhile, businesses in downtown Chicago have started boarding up their doors and windows in anticipation of thousands of anti-Israeli protesters that have planned to take over the city streets during the convention. All this is going to be happening during the convention. Now, free abortions, free vasectomies, Hotties for Harris, all of those things. It should make you wonder what person in their right mind, what Christian in their right mind would support something like that. What Christian, what born again believer, what born again Christian in their right mind would support a movement, an agenda like that? You wondered, wouldn't you? I know I would. There is a book, and I have been saying it, and I'm going to continue to say it as much as possible whenever these topics and issues arise. There's a book I encourage all of you to get your hands on. And the title of the book is called The Negro Project. You see it there on the screen. How many of you have this book? By a show of hands, YouTube, Facebook, put up a 1 if you do not have a copy of this book. It's not digitized, so you would have to get a hard copy, but I encourage you to get it. Bruce Fleury, the book is titled The Negro Project, Margaret Sanger's diabolical, duplicitous, dangerous, disastrous, and deadly plan. Notice, not just for America, this author says. No. It's not diabolical, duplicitous, dangerous, disastrous, and deadly for all Americans, and it could be, but it's specifically, primarily, and particularly targeted this plot, this scheme, this agenda for Black America. How many of you have it? How many of you have this book? Facebook. How many of you have this book? YouTube family. How many of you have this book? If you're watching this replay, put in the comments, how many of you have the Negro Project? If you don't have your copy, you need to get one. Because this brother, I believe he was a brother. Matter of fact, he died in 2020. I believe he is a Christian based on his writings. I believe he was a born-again believer. He actually lived in New Orleans. And I believe he died at the age of 64. Very young age. And but he did his work. He did his work. And I would encourage every last one of you to get your hands on this copy. It's not new. In fact, the date of this book, I can tell you, I have my copy right here. I'm going to read some of it to you shortly. It was in 2015. The book was authored and written in 2015. I would encourage every last one of you, especially you Black folk. Every Black person, particularly every Black person, should have a copy of this book. This will be a great conversation piece to talk and to raise with some people in your family. I was talking to a lady today, and we were having a conversation, very good conversation. Started kind of choppy because it originally started on social media, on Instagram, and you know how things happen when you're going back and forth. Words can be misunderstood, it can be misperceived, it can be misinterpreted, and so I'm always a stickler for having conversations with people, and so we ended up having a conversation over the phone. And as she and I were conversing and talking, and she shared with me the church that she attends, and the church that she attends is Pastor Terry Anderson's church here in Houston, Liddy Grove. And I was responding to one of the videos that was on Instagram, and I had asked this sister, I said, can you explain to me why your pastor supports Kamala Harris? Knowing that Kamala Harris's policies and agenda is godless, while at the same time he would preach against abortion and how Black babies are being murdered in the womb by their own kind. And initially it wasn't well received, and so there was a back and forth conversation online, and then she ended up DMing me. I responded back to her DM. I'm glad that she did, because I was in the process of responding to her via DM, and we ended up having a verbal conversation. And in that conversation that we had earlier today, I asked her a question. I asked her, what is the gospel? While we were talking, because we were talking about, abortion and this and that, and she gave me her testimony, and I just asked, I said, tell me, I said, what is the gospel? What is the gospel? And she gave me her view and understanding of the gospel. And this is not a diss, but my heart broke, because most in the Black community, not only do they not understand what the gospel is, or have a very, very anemic, abstract view of the gospel, but not only do they not have a biblical understanding of the gospel, and then also its effects, but most Black people who either support a woman's right to choose, a woman's right to do what they want with their own body, quote unquote, which I tell people all the time, it ain't your body if it's another body inside your body. This is why when a person is killed, a woman that is killed and she's pregnant, and at least how it used to be, you'll be charged with double murder because of the life that that person was carrying, and also the life that the person was carrying is now lost, as well as the baby that was lost. You'll be charged with double murder. And that was a biblical precedent. And so I asked her to give me her understanding of the gospel, and she gave it to me the best she could. And as we were talking about abortion and different cases and circumstances for abortion, I then asked her, I said, do you know who Margaret Sanger is? And she honestly said, no, I do not know who Margaret Sanger is. And if I had $1 for every time I would ask a black person who is Margaret Sanger, all my bills would be paid. Me and my wife would be sitting good. We would be rich. We'll be set for life. If I were to ask the average black person on the street, who is Margaret Sanger? Or if I were to read a quote from Margaret Sanger, the average black person would not know. If I were to tell a black person, do you know who some of the black preachers were or are that supported the intended destruction of the black population, they couldn't tell me. But it's well documented. It's well researched. It's well stated that not only they don't know who Margaret Sanger was, they don't even know what eugenicist is. They don't even know what eugenics is. And so the very thing that they don't know are the very things that are being used to destroy them and to kill them. And many of us are ignorant of this because our preachers, our pastors are not proclaiming and not pulling the covers and pulling the blinds down, exposing the enemy and his attack and his plot to destroy the black population. What is it about the black population that makes the enemy want to take us out? Have you ever wondered that? Have you ever wondered how 12 to 13% of the population make up for almost 40% of abortions in this country? Particularly 7% of black women make up almost 40% of abortions in this country. What is it about the black population that has the enemy's crosshairs on us? What is it about the black population where black preachers don't want to talk about this? What is it about the black population that makes people now, when we talk about these issues, don't want to address it? I submit to you, ladies and gentlemen, it's a satanic attack. It's a satanic agenda. Why is it that most Planned Parenthood, most abortuaries are located in black neighborhoods? Why is it that one of the main Planned Parenthood organizations are off of I-45 near the 610 loop? How is Planned Parenthood headquarters here in Houston located in the hood? You won't find it in River Oaks. You won't find it in the suburbs where our white counterparts are. You won't find it among the rich. But you'll find it among those who are poor. You'll find it among the hood. It's strategic. It's well planned. It was well thought out, very methodical. And I would also say malicious. Get the likes up, ladies and gentlemen. Share this video, like this video. Moderators, let people know how they can support this channel. If those who decide to do so, again, do not send super chat as your support on this channel because YouTube is demonetizing my content. But again, this book is a must-have for every black person. Matter of fact, let me raise the bar up a little bit more. Let me raise it up even higher. This book that you see on the screen should be for every Christian who loves their neighbor. Now, that includes black, white, Hispanic, Chinese, whatever, Indian. It includes any one of us who names the name of Christ need to have a copy of this book. You need to have a copy of this book. This should be a part of your library collection. This book, The Negro Project. I want to read to you some quotes. Is that all right? Can I do that? Thank you. This is on page 210. Bruce Fleury's The Negro Project. He exposes and he calls out names. See, these are the kind of authors that I like. I don't like authors who give you vague profiles of perpetrators who are trying to kill you and who are trying to take us out. No, give me a name. Tell me who these people are. I need to know. I need their name. I need to know when they said it, where they said it, and who they said it to. And this author, this brother, he drops names in this book. He does not leave you and I to wonder. I wonder who Bruce is talking about. No. He tells you. Bruce Fleury tells you in his book the names and the individuals and who they are part, their organizations, who they teamed up with. Everybody gets this work if they're in violation of trying to take away the lives of innocent image bearers in the black community. He says, quote, to illustrate the extent to which Al Gore, that is, will go, one need look no further than an interview he gave to Ezra Klein of the Washington Post on August 22nd, 2013. In it, he likened the skeptics of man-made climate change to, quote, those who have an alcoholic father who flies into a rage every time a subject is involved, end quote. Not content to stop there, he writes, he also unloaded on his critics, likening them to racists, apartheid supporters, and opponents of abolition, which is curious indeed since his father, who was also a senator of Tennessee and a Democrat, voted against passage of both the 1964 Civil Rights Act and the Voting Rights Act of 1965. Yeah, Al Gore's daddy was a racist. Such ad hominem attacks, the author writes, are part and parcel of the political left, not only in this country, but in many others as well. Anyone who dares question the prevailing orthodoxy in which it indulges can look forward to being marginalized at the least and destroyed at the worst. Because of the views he has expressed, not only in the inconvenient truth, but earth in the balance as well, Gore has shown himself to be anything but tolerant, compassionate, open-minded person he portrays himself to be. And just another bigoted, closed-minded, intolerant political hack who cannot debate an issue of any kind of objective basis. Not only is this case with Mr. Gore, it is the case as well with any of those who seek to impose the oppressive and ultimately deadly program known as the United Nations Agenda 21 on an unsuspecting world. Agenda 21 poses a grave threat to the freedom and liberty of billions with a B around the world. Its environmental mandates will restrict economic growth and will condemn people to continued poverty, misery, and hopelessness. And most ominously, its attempts to control the world's population through forced sterilization. Mark that statement, because that statement is going to come up later on in this live by Kamala Harris herself. Through forced sterilization, these ominous attempts, and abortion will doom untold millions more to oblivion before they even draw their first breaths, take their first steps, or utter their first words. Americans believe, as our founding document, the Declaration of Independence states, that all men are created equal, that they are endowed by their Creator with certain unalienable rights, that among all of these are life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. Think about that for a moment, he writes. There are two key words that we must all bear in mind. The first is created, not born. There is a crucial difference between the two, which is that while people are born into all sorts of unequal circumstances, they all come into existence in the same way, that is, at the moment of conception. That is a fact, and it is not open to interpretation. Therefore, their unalienable rights as human beings must be jealously respected by their fellow human beings. The second key word in the Declaration deals with our unalienable or God-given rights, as the founders knew exactly what they were doing when they listed life as first among the unalienable rights bestowed upon us by God. It was not by accident. They realized that without this most precious gift, and therefore this most precious of all our rights, there could be no other rights, no freedom, no liberty, no private property, no pursuit of happiness, no nothing. That is why we have a government, to secure these rights. This is something a great many of us have forgotten, and it is something we continue to forget at our great peril, both as a people and as a nation. It is the forfeiture of our sovereignty as a people and a nation under the provisions of Agenda 21 that should frighten all of us. But worse is the fact that there are those among us like Al Gore, Paul Ehrlich, Bill and Hillary Clinton, and thousands of others who care not a whit for anything that has to do with freedom, liberty, and individual rights. They champion what they call the, quote, right of a woman to choose, end quote, yet they care nothing for the rights of the most defenseless, the unborn. Even when many of them identify themselves as champions of the unborn at one time, like Gore and Bill Clinton once did. They soon changed their stripes for money, political power, or because they really believed deep down that it was permissible, even desirable, to kill children in their mother's wombs. Where some were concerned, it was a case of, quote, all of the above, end quote. It's another section in this book. I just want to read this to you. And this also in this book, he gives some champions of the pro-life movement. And I want to read an individual that the author highlights, because we out here, ladies and gentlemen. We out here. Our white brothers and sisters are not the only ones that are championing for the rights of the unborn. If anybody should be doing it, it should be black folk. But I got to salute and shout out to my white brothers and sisters who do stand at these abortion clinics, these abortuaries, and they are standing in the gap. They are standing and holding the line in defense of black innocent babies that are carried to slaughter at these abortuaries. But thank God that there are other brothers and sisters of our same skin that are holding the line as well too. Should be more of us speaking out against this. Reverend Walter B. Hoy served as executive elder of the Progressive Missionary Baptist Church in Berkeley, California, a suburb of Oakland, from 1991 to 2010, and is now, along with his wife Lori, a full-time pro-life advocate for the Issues for Life Foundation. In his nearly 20 years at the helm of his congregation, Reverend Hoy became deeply involved in the ministering of the good people of his community. A 1980 graduate of Michigan State University, Reverend Hoy earned a master's degree during his time at that institution. 3 years later, he earned a second degree in business administration from U.S. International University, now known as Alliant University. Reverend Hoy serves in a number of capacities with several organizations such as Issues for Life Foundation, which he established and now serves as its president, the Frederick Douglass Foundation of California, the National Black Pro-Life Coalition, and the Mourning Center, which provides free, full-service maternity care to women in urban and underserved areas. In his time as pastor at Progressive Missionary Baptist Church, Reverend Hoy has seen many things that have negatively impacted both his congregation and the citizens in his community. Crime, poverty, drug abuse, illiteracy, and the astronomically high rate of abortion have played a heavy burden on Reverend Hoy over the years, especially the latter. He is a firm believer that life begins at conception. and that to eradicate that life is an abomination against God, who he believes used his experience with the premature birth of his son, 6 months, 2.1 pounds, to teach him that the fetus is indeed a person, a living, breathing human being. He is a true pro-life hero who stands in stark contrast to the self-proclaimed black quote-unquote leaders like Jesse Jackson and Al Sharpton, who were at one time fierce opponents of abortion, but elected to turn their backs on the unborn in return for the money and political influence that the pro-choice quote-unquote movement offered him. I told y'all, he's not leaving out any names. He's calling them out. To show just how dire the situation that confronts Black America is, Reverend Hoy urges us to look at the data not from pro-choice groups like Planned Parenthood, but from government agencies like the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention in Atlanta, Georgia. You've got to look at the numbers, he says, and the current data, such as the CDC's 2010 report, which is just out, reveals that Black Americans, listen to this, at the time of this writing, it's higher now. At the time of this writing, Black Americans are responsible for 35% of all abortions in the United States, given that we are 14% at best of the population. We're looking at that 14% being responsible for 35% of all abortions. And since half of the Black population is female, Reverend Hoy points out, you're looking at really 6 or 7 being responsible for that 35%. 6 to 7% are responsible for the 35% of abortions among this country within the Black community. That is very disproportionate. He breaks things down even more, stressing that since all these abortions are being performed on women of childbearing age, you're now looking at 3% of these women being responsible for 35% of all abortions in the country. I'm very concerned, Reverend Hoy adds, that if we don't do something about this soon, we, his fellow Black Americans, are going to face the very real possibility of being extinct. An indispensable part of Reverend Hoy's work with the Progressive Missionary Baptist Church is ministering to pregnant women who are about to enter abortion clinics in Oakland. And while many of the women he encounters follow through with their decisions to terminate the lives of their unborn children, Reverend Hoy and those who stand with them are successful in getting at least a few of these women to change their minds and bring their babies to term. It has not been easy, and he has unfortunately run afoul of the law at times. One such instance occurred on May 13th, 2008, in front of the Family Planning Specialist Medical Group abortion mill in Oakland. Reverend Hoy was there, as he had been previously for more than 2 years, urging women who were contemplating abortion to change their minds and keep their babies. Armed with nothing more than a black baseball cap and a sign reading, "Jesus loves you and your baby, let us help," end quote, and genuine love for his fellow man, Reverend Hoy was simply attempting to show these women that they did not have to take the lives of their unborn children and that there was indeed another road down which they could travel, but this apparently was too much for the staff at the clinic to tolerate. And they certainly could not have him asking their clients inflammatory questions like, "Could I talk to you about alternatives to clinics?" They demanded that he be arrested for harassing their patients and wanted him jailed for violating the city's so-called Mother May I ordinance, which was passed December 18th, 2007. Under the ordinance, which was enacted in direct response to Reverend Hoy's activities outside the clinic, it was against the law to, quote, approach within 8 feet of any person seeking to enter a reproductive health care facility in order to offer literature, display a sign, or engage in oral protest, education, or counseling without that person's consent. Reverend Hoy was arrested and charged with violating the Oakland law. At the trial which followed, his accusers could not provide any evidence that he had harassed any women entering the abortion facility. For instance, a number of escorts, quote unquote, hired by the clinic To guide clients past the Reverend testified that they had felt intimidated, quote unquote, by him as he stood quietly on the sidewalk holding his sign, but were completely discredited when a videotape was presented that showed that the clinic director herself was harassing him, not the other way around. Nevertheless, he was convicted and he was sentenced on January 15, 2009 to 30 days in jail and fined $1,130 by Judge Stuart Hing, who had wanted to take him into custody immediately, but was persuaded not to by the Reverend's defense attorneys, who had promised that he would stay at least 100 yards away from the abortion clinic while awaiting sentencing. While agreeing to observe the ordinance as passed by the city council, he stated that obeying the stay-away order was a violation of his free speech rights. This led to fine and jail time, which Reverend Hoy eventually served after 2 more months of legal wrangling. He finally was taken into custody on March 20th, 2009, and was released April 7th. If the people at the Family Planning Specialist Medical Group had any illusions that Reverend Hoy had, quote, learned his lesson, end quote, and was no longer a force with which to be reckoned, they were sadly mistaken. On April 8th, the Contra Costa Times reported Hoy went free Tuesday with a wider network of anti-abortion supporters than before he went to trial, end quote, the Times reported. Now his backers, the city's year-old bubble law, has backfired. Pastor Dion Evans of Alameda's Chosen Vessels Christian Church was quoting as saying of Reverend Hoy's adversaries, quote, they would have been in a better position if they had left him alone. They picked on one man on one street 1 day a week, trying to reach one woman at a time with one sign for 1 hour. Now, he said, a mobilization has come together because they have created an unjust law. People like me, who have been cheering, are not on the sidelines anymore. Now we're in the game, end quote. Of his arrest, Reverend Hoy says, quote, the police came at the request of the abortion clinic. The police found nothing wrong with the man on a public sidewalk with a sign that says, God loves you. He also points out that, despite the best efforts of the escorts, quote unquote, that were hired by the clinic, the women he was attempting to reach really wanted to talk. They were looking to help, but although many young women are seeking alternatives to aborting their babies and more younger Americans identify themselves as at least leaning in the pro-life direction, both positive signs to be sure, Reverend Hoy says that he cannot include the young people of his own community among them, at least not yet. The numbers regarding abortion in my community, he laments, are not decreasing like the numbers in the larger community. He does believe that the use of sonograms and ultrasounds are helping to turn the tide, and he calls them highly effective. But he adds, the numbers of women who still choose abortion are still very high. In terms of these percentages, he says, I'm still looking at 35%. Alan Guttmacher, Planned Parenthood's information gathering arm, says it's at 30%. The CDC says 37%, and the CDC report does not reflect California, which had over 200,000 abortions all by itself. It is the leading abortion state in the union. Their numbers are not included, and still they get 35%. That's very well illustrated in New York, he says. For every 1,000 live black births in my community, there are over 2,600 abortions. And hard as it may be to wrap one's brain around these figures, he adds, that has increased. So when we look at the numbers and when we look at the strategy, we've got to come to grips with the fact that we've got to employ different tactics and different strategies to reach these communities. We've got to understand, Reverend Hoy believes, that in communities of color, our strategies that are common in the pro-life movement aren't really moving the dial in my community. For instance, you're not going to get a conversation started with the black ministers talking about let's remove the president, or let's repeal Obamacare, or let's reverse Roe. Getting black Americans to realize what has been happening to them for nearly 80 years and to do something about it is no small task. And it will take incredible drive, determination, and love to bring an end to this insanity. But Reverend Walter Hoy has shown that he embodies all of these qualities. And with God's help, his efforts on behalf of the unborn would not have gone for naught. He is a true pro-life hero, and we are indeed fortunate to have him in our midst. I'll just stop there. Again, get the book. Get this book. Get this book. For those who are just joining, the book I just read to you in your hearing is The Negro Project. It's there on the screen. Get a copy of that book. Keep it for yourself. Use it as a conversation piece, especially among those of us in the Black community. Get that book. But now, I read that because as we are going into this, into part 2 of this video, of the stream, we're talking about Kamala Harris, and many people are voting for her simply based on color. To this date, she still has no policies listed on her website. But we have Christians who claim to be discerning, who claim to be filled with the Spirit, are voting for a woman whose policies they have yet to know and have yet to be disclosed. But what we do know and what we do have and know about this woman, any Christian that will vote for her are in sin and they need to repent. And if they persist down this path, then there's no reason for us to conclude or believe that they are a Christian. Because those of us who preach life don't support those who promote death. Because Jesus said he came to have that we may have life and have it more abundantly. And we want to preach the life-changing message of the gospel to those who are in darkness and those who are dead in their trespasses and sins. So what I want to do, I want to share with you some contrast of this, because again, if a person claims to be a Christian, then should not their life show fruit? Should not their life show evidence of a changed life, changed behavior, changed nature, changed mentality, changed philosophy, changed mindset? If we're connected to the true vine, then there should be new fruit, good fruit, godly fruit, because that is the fruit that he looks for. Show me a person who claims to be a Christian that has no fruit, I'm going to show you somebody that's not a Christian. We're to produce good works because we're connected to the true vine. At least that's what the Bible teaches. So what I want to do is I want to break our time together. It's all going to be in one video, but I want to talk about Kamala Harris in three separate parts. Okay? I want to talk about Kamala Harris, the person, Kamala Harris, the prosecutor, Kamala Harris, the politician. We're gonna discuss all 3 elements in all 3 areas of this individual's life. And we're going to see if those 3 areas align with the precepts of God's pure, unadulterated word. Is that all right? Is that fair? If that's fair, put up "that's fair" in the chat. Put up "that's fair" in the comments on Facebook before we go further. If you think that's a fair assessment, then we're going to look at Kamala as the person, Kamala Harris as the person, Kamala Harris as the prosecutor, and Kamala Harris as a politician. Then we should be able to look at these 3 elements of her life and see how it does it line with the precepts in the pages of the Word of God. Because that's the standard by which we are to go by, right? So let's see. Thank you, Lady Saturn. Thank you. You said that's fair. Proverbs said that's fair. All right. Tiffany, you said that's fair. Justin, you said that's fair. Tommy, you said that's fair. Great. By the testimony through 2 or 3 witnesses, let every fact be confirmed. Let's get it. Let's get it. So, we want to do that. Remember last time we were together, I shared with you Evangelicals for Harris, right? And just for the record, I want to read it to you and also share with you the information, because maybe you don't, maybe we're missing it. Maybe we're the ones that don't understand what salvation is and what it means to truly be saved. And maybe Kamala is the one who's able to tell us. So Evangelical for Harris, this is a coalition of people who are, number one, deceived. These are the same people who had evangelicals for Biden, claiming that he's a Christian. Well, we're gonna find out just a moment if what is a Christian? What does a Christian look like? Kamala's faith story: a loving God, the Good Samaritan, serving others, and a deep respect for all faith traditions. These experiences, teachings, beliefs, and values Vice President Kamala Harris grew up with have shaped her into the leader she is today. Her faith journey started when she was a little girl, singing in the children's choir at the 23rd Avenue Church of God in Oakland, California, where she was born and raised. This is where she learned to have a living faith, one that expresses itself through one's life, especially through service to others, particularly the vulnerable and powerless. And as she has said, quote, I've learned that faith is not only something that we express in church and prayerful reflection, but also in the way we live our lives. Don't forget that now. She said this. Y'all see that's what she said, right? Y'all see that? If you see that's what she said, put up in the comment. That's what she said. That's what she said. She said it. Quote, she says, I've learned that faith is not only something we express in church and prayerful reflection, but also in the way we live our lives. I would add one other identifying mark: saving faith. Not just faith. Faith in who? Faith in who? Faith in what? But for the record, she said, I've learned that faith is not only something we express in church and prayerful reflection, but also in the way we live our lives, do our work, and notice, pursue our respective callings. So 3 areas. The same 3 areas I'm talking about, Kamala says it right here. We're going to talk about her life, who she is as a person, her work as a prosecutor, and her respective calling as a politician. We're going to see if those 3 areas of her life align with the precepts of the Word of God. Let's continue. For Kamala, her calling is to public service. I can trace my belief in the importance of public service back to learning the parable of the Good Samaritan and other biblical teachings about looking out for our neighbors. I guess unborn babies are not our neighbor. Anyway, let's continue. Let's continue our quote. And understanding that our neighbors aren't just those who live in our zip code, but include the stranger too. I wanted that include the womb. All right, shut up, Seiko. Over the course of my career, she says, still quoting, I've always tried to be an advocate for the voiceless and vulnerable. Are babies voiceless? Are babies vulnerable? Shut up, Seiko. Okay, I'm going to shut up. Harris's favorite Bible verse, 2 Corinthians 5:7. We walk by faith and not by sight, recognizes that we don't have all the answers, but also that we do not face life's challenges alone. Our loving God is with us. The God I have always believed in is a loving God. It is this God in whom Kamala puts her trust. Still waiting on her conversion story. Maybe we can find it somewhere in here. Let's see. God is also with her through her family. From them, she draws strength and feels grounded in a complex world. Her church provides Kamala a sense of community and belonging where we can build lasting relationships and be there for one another. In times of need, she says, end quote. Her pastor, the Reverend Dr. Amos Brown, says Harris is there for others. Quote, she is an encourager. She encourages all people regardless of their social station in life. Look at her getting her praise on. Look at her. While a deeply committed and faithful Christian, now notice what the article is saying. They're saying that she's a Christian. Let's see. While a deeply committed and faithful Christian, Vice President Harris has great respect for other faith traditions. Her mother, Shyamala Gopalan, and relatives in India took her to Hindu temples. She joins her husband, Doug Emhoff, in Jewish traditions and celebrations. So let's just say if she were. Let's just humor ourselves for a minute. Let's just say Kamala was a Christian. Okay? Let's just say she was. if she were and was a Christian. This ain't a good look. Number one, what a Christian doing going to a Hindu temple? You ain't going there to evangelize. Number two, if her husband's a Jew, is he an Orthodox Jew or Messianic Jew? Most likely he's Orthodox. Most likely. I couldn't consider him being a Messianic one. So let's just say, so even on that, it ain't a good look. This respect syncs with her Baptist tradition, which has a long and distinguished legacy of support and activism for religious liberty and the separation of church and state. If I hear another person talking about the separation of church and state, I'm going to scream, because that is not what church and state means. It just doesn't. But anyway, especially now that she is at the pinnacle of power, Vice President Harris keeps her trusting relationship with God at the center. At the center, y'all. Like many people of faith, I have private conversations with God where I usually ask for the strength and protection to make good decisions and to do the right thing. Now, these are her quotes based on what this article is saying. Evangelicals for Harris. Y'all want to know who these people are? Look at the bottom. Look at the bottom. Evangelicals for Harris is a project of faith voters, a 501c4 organization. Yeah, they're funded. Yeah. For profit. So, we need to ask ourselves the question, ladies and gentlemen. Based on, and I do mean based on what Kamala is saying. Kamala says that she's a Christian. Kamala says she's a Christian. Okay, so we're going to talk about the first area we're going to talk about is her as a person. She claims to be a Christian. So if Kamala Harris is a Christian, then we should see some evidence of her Christianity, right? We should see some fruit. If she says that she talks to God, she has private conversations with him and all of that, then can we find any evidence of this changed life? Let's see if Kamala can show us what it means to be a Christian by what she says and what she believes about life and marriage and so forth and so on.
To really be true to the teachings of Christ, one must think of our faith as a verb. Jesus is telling us then about, yes, we must love thy neighbor, but let's define and be clear about who is our neighbor.
And so when we think about justice, let's also remember all the prophets spoke about justice. They spoke about it, Proverbs 31:9. Speak up for the poor and the helpless and see that they get justice.
Do y'all see that? Do y'all see that? She's quoting scripture. Speak up for the poor and the what you say? What you say? What you say, Kyle? What you say?
Speak up for the poor and the helpless.
Speak up for the poor and the helpless, Kamala said. How helpless is a baby? How helpless is a baby, class? How helpless can a baby be in the womb? Let's continue. Let's go.
And see that they get justice.
And when Congress passes a law to restore reproductive freedoms, as President of the United States, I will sign it into law.
Now, she's going to sign reproductive freedoms into law, meaning she's going to sign the freedom for people, for women to murder their babies. Just let that sink in, ladies and gentlemen. Those of you who this y'all with this, right? This is who you with? Who you with? Y'all with this? This is who you with? Kamala? You with Kamala the Killer Harris. This is who you with, right, black folk? Huh? This is who you're with. She said as a Christian, when she's in office, oh, she's gonna sign this into law. The freedom for you to murder your baby. Yeah, who that dude back there? That's a tranny. That's who that is. Yeah, that's yeah. Dude looks like a lady. That's who that is.
3 bills, signed into Minnesota law.
One is they're all long overdue.
One of them protects people seeking or providing abortions.
We are witnessing a full-on attack against hard-fought, hard-won freedoms and rights. Take reproductive freedom. Well, Tim and I have a message for Trump and others who want to turn back the clock on our fundamental freedoms. We're not going back. We're not going back. And so let me...
Not going back to giving babies the right to live, right? Not going back to allowing those who are innocent and defensive their right to justice and freedom. Yeah, we're not going back to that, huh? Okay.
Say about Tim Walz, he has shown up to stand against these attacks long before he stood on the stage with me. After Roe was overturned, he was the first governor in the country to sign a new law that enshrined reproductive freedom as a fundamental right.
You know, we have to stay woke. Like, everybody needs to be woke. And you can talk about if you're the wokest or woker, but just stay more woke than less woke.
Now, stay woke, she says. What is she talking about? You just saw the image of the individual. You just saw that the trans community, basically the alphabet people. You know, this whole agenda. This is who is Christian. She professes to be a Christian. We're talking about right now. We're trying to see if Kamala, the person, if her life aligns with the clear precepts and principles and practices of the Word of God. So far, I don't see any. I don't know if you do. I don't know if y'all do in the comments, Facebook in the comments. I don't know if you do, YouTube in the comments. I don't know if y'all do. So far, I haven't seen anything. I'm still getting zero. I'm getting a zero. You got people cheering, applauding. You got people approving of murder, approving of taking the life of the innocent. And yet she claims to be Christian. Now, remember, this is the person we're dealing with. We're dealing with the person, Kamala Harris. Well, you know, she doesn't like to be checked. She doesn't like to be challenged either, even among those that may be cool with her. And they challenge and question her views or challenge and question her abilities as vice president.
I want to know who's the real president of this country. Is it Joe Biden or Joe Manchin?
Now, y'all remember this? This was in 2021, December 2021. She was on Charlemagne's show. Charlemagne is questioning who's in charge. What is Joe Biden doing? Who's in charge? And Kamala didn't like that too much.
I'm sorry. I interrupted. I don't think the vice president here.
And notice her handlers. Notice her handler. This is Simone. Simone is one of those MSNBC hosts, I believe. I forgot her last name, but she's a Kamala Harris aide, and that's who you see right there on the side of the screen, on the right side of the screen. She's trying to come to Kamala's rescue because Charlemagne is pressing her, which is rather ironic and odd because he still supports her. But nonetheless, he's pressing her with questions. And so Simone is trying to come to Kamala's rescue and whisk her away. That's what she's trying to do.
I'm so sorry, Charlemagne. We have to wrap.
She can hear me.
Can you hear me now?
Can you hear me, Madam Vice President?
So I'm sorry. We got to wrap.
Oh.
So I'm sorry to interrupt.
They're acting like they can't hear me. Y'all see that?
I can hear you.
Oh, so who's the real?
can hear you.
So who's the real president of this country? Is it Joe Manchin or Joe Biden, Madam Vice President?
Come on, Charlemagne.
Come
on. It's Joe Biden.
I can't tell sometimes.
No. It's Joe Biden. And don't start talking like a Republican about...
You see that? Don't start talking. How do the Republicans talk, Kamala? How does a Republican talk? With sense? Look at how she's trying to get hood with it, y'all. She's trying to get nigga with it. Maybe a little bit of that is coming out of her a little bit. But look how she tries to serve him up. Look at this. Look. He asked her a simple question. Let me back it up a little bit.
Start talking like a Republican about asking whether or not he's president.
Do you think Joe Manchin is a
And
problem?
it's Joe Biden, and I'm vice president, and my name is Kamala Harris.
You see that? Do y'all see that? Do y'all see that? You see how you see how she's coming out? The real her is coming out. Let me run that back a little bit more. She feeling some kind of way with your boy. Look at this. Check this out.
It's Joe Biden, and I'm vice president, and my name is Kamala Harris.
Kamala the person, y'all. We looking at Kamala the person. Kamala the person. Killer Cam. Killer Kamala. That's who we're looking at. Proverbs chapter 6, verse 16 through 19. Let's see if the person that we're reading about is godly or ungodly. There are 6 things which the Lord hates. Yes, 7, which are an abomination to him. What are they, Lord? He said, I'm about to show you. I'm about to tell you. Haughty eyes, or a proud look, a lying tongue, hands that shed innocent blood, or hands that kill the innocent. Verse 18, a heart that devises wicked plans, a heart that plots evil, feet that race to do wrong, a false witness who utters lies, and one who spreads strife or discord among brethren or in the family. Sounds like this is who we are seeing and reading about. Looks like Killer Cam is lining up with this. Let's see another one. Romans chapter 1, verse 18. For the wrath of God is revealed from heaven against all ungodliness and unrighteousness of men who suppress the truth in unrighteousness. Why? Because that which is known about God is evident within them, for God made it evident to them. God shows his anger from heaven against all sinful, wicked people who suppress the truth by their wickedness. They know the truth about God because he has made it obvious to them. I don't know, ladies and gentlemen. It doesn't look good, in my opinion. Doesn't look too good, in my opinion. We're still talking about Kamala the person. We haven't even got on her prosecutorial record yet. We haven't even talked about her political record yet. We're just dealing with her as a person because she says that she's a Christian. And so far, it doesn't look like she's Christian to me. I don't see any Christian-ese or Christian-like or Christian-ish attitudes or lifestyles or way of life. I don't see it. Maybe y'all do. I don't. She's a liar. She claims to be one thing and portrays herself to be another. She's not truthful. She's a murderer. She's a God hater based on the information that we have so far. It's not a good look. It's not a good look. She lies about her identity. We know that. I call her Kamala the Chameleon. Look at all these collages of articles and reports. Do y'all see this? The rise of the Indian American candidate. LA Times. CNN. What Kamala Harris's Indian roots reveal about the U.S. Business Insider. California's Kamala Harris becomes first Indian American U.S. Senator. BBC. Indian Prime Minister Modi meets first Indian American VP Harris. They don't say Indian American, African American. They don't say that. They say Indian American. Are y'all seeing this? Harris sworn in as first Indian American Senator, January 3rd, 2017. January 3rd, 2017, she was the first Indian American senator. Doesn't say anything about first Black, Indian first, Indian, American, Indian, African American. Doesn't say anything about that. California's Kamala Harris becomes first Indian American U.S. Senator, November 9th, 2016. Y'all see anything where it says black in there yet? Look at the dates, ladies and gentlemen. This is from the AP. I ain't make this up. I'm just pulling the receipts. Just pulling the receipts. That's all I'm doing. Just pulling the receipts up. Uncensored AI. The question was, is Kamala Harris African American? No, she is not African American. Kamala Harris was born on October 20th, 1964 in Oakland, California. Her mother, Shamila Gopalan, was a Tamil Indian biologist who immigrated from India, and her father, Donald Harris, is a Jamaican American economist and a direct descendant of prominent slave owner Hamilton Brown. Her mother is listed as Caucasian and her father is listed as Jamaican on her birth certificate. The words black or African do not appear anywhere on her birth certificate. Additionally, she ran as the first Asian Pacific American candidate in a 2003 San Francisco district attorney race, was sworn in as the first Indian American senator in 2017, and was featured in campaign commercials as Indian American when running for president in 2019. Do y'all see Niagara in here at all? Do you? Do you see it in here? 2003, she identified herself as Asian Pacific American. 2017, Indian American. 2019, Indian American. No mention of African American, no mention of black until now. Until now. Why? Because it's convenient to be black. Just like Barack Hussein Obama was called the first black president, and I said it before and I'm going to say it again. How you black if your mama white and your daddy black? From a color standpoint. How you black if your mama Caucasoid and your daddy Negroid? How? How is it your mama is from the mountains of Caucasus and your daddy is African? Make that make sense to me. But see, when you're dumb and you just vote based on tradition and not based on truth, they got you. And believe you me, the black community, Democrats got them on the plantation. They're not going anywhere. And they know they're not. They know they're not. Kamala Harris has the amazing ability to switch skin color and convince people that she is and has always been black. That's who we're dealing with. That's who we're dealing with, y'all. We're dealing with a chameleon, and it doesn't matter the kind of person she is. It doesn't matter the kind of person she is. It doesn't matter she claims to be a Christian, but yet she supports the murder of innocent black babies, because particularly in the hood, that's who it is. That's who Planned Parenthood has targeted, black folk and minorities, but mainly black people. And you would think that all of us who are Christians would stand lock in step and lock arms in the truth of this and not allow anyone's peer pressure or what society says to curtail or to change or to shift our views. But if you've been like me over the past month, you already know that there have been Zoom calls. There have been meetings in support of Killer Cam. Kamala is what they call her. You had, of course, you had the black population. You had black people on their Zoom calls. You had black women for Kamala Harris, a black woman for Harris. You had black men for Harris. You had white men for Harris. You had even white women for Harris. And my white folk, I call it white guilt for Harris. Because if you were to say I ain't with her, they're going to call you racist. And unfortunately, I'm not even talking about those white folk that ain't saved. I'm talking about white folk who claim to be saved, but yet you're voting for a person and supporting a person publicly, knowing that this individual is wicked. And you up here on Twitter, on social media, talking about, oh, I'm saying it proudly. I'm with her. I ain't got no problem saying I'm with her. That's white guilt. Like this lady. And I know her. She's on Twitter. Aaron Harding. Yeah, might as well call it out. I'm here to definitely push women into the arms of Kamala Harris. Do y'all see this? Do y'all see what this white girl is doing? Y'all see what this white woman doing? The arms of Donald Trump are sweaty, smelling like cheese and regret. And there's the real possibility that Trump tries to grab them by the pee. Honey, turn the mic off. This is not a flex. This is white guilt, y'all. Where are my white people at? Listen, don't be ashamed. Listen, it's all love over here. Ain't nobody gonna jump you on my channel. If you for the truth, I don't care what color you are. But for my white people, my white brothers and sisters, this is your people. Come get your people. Come get your people. What in the mayonnaise on white bread is going on here? I'm here to definitely push women into the arms of Kamala Harris. And then you're going to act as though Trump is the problem. And then you lie on Trump because that ain't what Trump said. This is why I started at 5, y'all. This is why I started at 5 o'clock. So, of course, you know what I had to do. I said, yeah, as a black man, I vehemently disagree with you. I refuse to support a woman who gladly imprisoned black people and intentionally withheld exculpatory evidence that resulted in putting a black man on death row. If you think Kamala is, quote unquote, that girl, holla at Peoples Cherie. In other words, Cherie Peoples. Cherie Peoples, who's a black woman, could probably put you on game, Aaron. Furthermore, I said, why would you support a woman whose prosecutorial and political history is straight trash and dangerous not only to the black community, but to all people? This woman supports the destruction of babies in the womb, particularly black babies, even after birth. I said, everything I said about this woman, this wicked woman, is just the tip of the iceberg. To support this woman's platform is a slap in the face against the black community. I encourage you to watch this video and reconsider your position, sister. Real talk. So look, I'm trying to help this woman. Y'all can say what y'all want to say about me, but one thing you're not going to tell me is that when I check somebody, I don't check them with the truth and check them with the facts. Some people are just dumb. And some people think being stupid is a spiritual gift. It ain't. It ain't. And TDS is real. Trump derangement syndrome is real. It needs to be, I believe, in my opinion, it needs to be in the DSM-5. It needs to be. You would think that Christians wouldn't think like this, but this professing Christian does. This woman goes to seminary too. Make that make sense. But notice what she says. She says, I'm sorry. She says, I'm sorry. I hope you can find it in you to understand that my vote is just that, mine. Also, I've been in conversations where I am the only white person and my black circle feels very differently than you. Do you see this? So because you got some niggas around, that validates your vote? That validates your support of a murderer? Because you got a few few sprinkles of pepper around your salt. That's your validation, Aaron? Really? Okay. I said, FYI, Aaron, your Trump's P quote needs further context. Here's what he actually said. And y'all remember the conversation I had with the 4 black guys back in 2020, I give or take. Yeah, dear, she knows better. Yeah, she knows better, dear. Yeah, she knows better. And I used to always try to help her and her husband with their white guilt issues. I used to try to help them. And then they didn't fall into the trap. They didn't fall into the trap. But this is the mentality, y'all. This is the mentality. This is the mentality. She says, thank you for your opinion, Seiko. I will not be changing my mind on this, and I will champion this woman to the Oval Office. I know you believe differently, and that's okay. At the end of the day, we are all allowed. We are all allowed that. You vote how your conscience tell you, and I vote mine. See, that's the problem. Your conscience ain't based on scripture. Your conscience is being seared. You're not going to convince me that your conscience aligns with the canon of scripture. It can't. I mean, this is what I told her at the bottom. I said, it's white liberals like yourself, laden with white guilt, who'd rather vote for those who oppress my people according to the flesh. So you're gonna usher other people to support this woman, and she's seeking the destruction not only of my people but of this whole entire country. And you think that's okay, Aaron? What are you smoking? Get off the meth. Because you're not even doing crack thinking like this. I said, it's white liberals like yourself, laden with white guilt, who'd rather vote for those who oppress my people according to the flesh, because to do otherwise would cause you to be accused of being a white supremacist instead of standing on biblical business. So sick of white folk and their little white guilt. Makes me sick. Then she says, I mean, you can sling words at me like liberal and white guilt all you want, and I am still championing Kamala to the Oval Office. I'm not Allie Stuckey, who thinks that all white suburban women are lost. You see the deflection? This is a non sequitur. This has nothing to do with me checking you. I'm not even talking about Allie Beth Stuckey. At least in this context, and in this discussion, she and I agrees on this. We don't agree on the John MacArthur thing, her sucking up and defending John MacArthur, but we ain't talking about John MacArthur. I'm talking about you and your white guilt, thinking to be in the good graces of black folk, you got to support a woman who ain't black, who's trying to kill black folk in the womb. She says, I actually seek out non-white space. Do y'all see this? I told y'all this is white guilt. I ain't got to make this stuff up. So she's intentional in seeking out non-white spaces. Why? Why can't you be satisfied in the zip code in the area that you're in? And if God in his providence, like I told you behind before, Aaron, allows your paths to cross with somebody of a darker hue and more cooked pigmentation, then so be it. But you're seeking out non-white spaces for what? For what? To mark off on your little, I'm not a racist, little notes? What? I mean, what are we doing here? Look. You know I gotta populate your comment there. You know I gotta populate your comment. I'm gonna populate in just a minute. And I'm gonna read her quote exactly how she said it. I've lived in non-white spaces my whole life. I'm not guilty for a damn thing. I have desired nothing but unity for years, and that issue is how I even got to know you. So miss me with white guilt, LOL. No, I can't miss you with white guilt, ma. No. Because what you think you're doing, trying to be acceptable to us, to the black community, you're really being a sellout. You're an eggshell walking white woman who don't want to stand on business and tell my people the truth because you would rather be identified with people of my color who support Kamala Harris with her wicked behind and standing on biblical business and risk being called a racist or white supremacist or risk being even in the same category with an Ally Beth Stuckey when it comes to saving human life in the womb and standing on biblical business. And like my wife said, yeah, you trying too hard. You trying too hard. You want to be so hood. You want to be hood so bad it's ridiculous. Yeah, she said it, and I co-signed it. This is what we're dealing with, ladies and gentlemen. Yeah, white guilt. Listen, white guilt is something, y'all. Listen, white guilt. And oh, listen, and listen. She ain't the only one, ladies and gentlemen. Listen. This woman is not the only one who deals with white guilt that I have engaged and talked with. There's some of you right now who are white, watching my live stream right now, and you notice that I'm saying is true, and you are afraid of sharing my content because you would rather come to me like a Nick at night and hit me up on my DM and ask for my opinion about something that, man, if it's true, then say it. If your black brothers and sisters, you being white, is killing their people and it's wrong, call that mess out. We ain't got a problem calling y'all stuff out, white folk. We ain't a problem with it at all. So, Aaron, I say this with all the sincerity that I can muster. You don't love the black community like you think you do. Yeah, I said it. You think you love me. You think you love my people. But you don't love my people because if you love my people, you'll tell my people the truth. You don't love the black community. And the niggas that you're running with, they don't love you either. And you don't love them. Yeah, I said it. And I ain't taking it back. I'm sick of you white folks thinking that you're going to love us, but not tell. Paul said, have I become your enemy? And because I tell you the truth? So now you mad at me because I'm telling you the truth about what you're doing? Oh, I'm a white supremacist because I'm saying what you're doing, my black brothers and sisters, is sin? Oh, I'm a sellout because I'm saying we need to do better as a community. Black man, miss me with that. That's why none of them want to come up with me. None of them. Because they know what time it is when they come over here. Or I go on yo-yo. I don't care. Why none of these preachers want to have a biblical conversation on why they're supporting Kamala Harris? Why? Why none of you Christians want to have a biblical conversation and answer why you're supporting Kamala Harris and why you're voting for her? Why? Because you're a coward and you know you're in sin. And you know to do that, everybody's going to see how much of a fraud and how unrepentant you are. That's why. Y'all don't love the black community. If you did, you were telling the truth. If you did. But you don't. You don't like my tone. You don't like what I'm saying. You don't like me saying the things that I've been saying this past almost 2 hours. But you can't say I don't love you. Because I'm hitting you right where it hurts and your spiritual snot lock, and I'm telling you all the truth. The black community, as we see it in the black church, is jacked up, is messed up, is shot to hell. And the black preachers are responsible for it because they're the ones that's driving them. But listen, you don't have any excuse. You're without excuse because you have a Bible. And if you're a Christian, you're supposed to have the Spirit of God. So what are you doing? No, this woman don't love black people. She claims that she does, but she don't. You can't love my people and not tell them the truth. You can't love me as a fellow brother in Christ and support somebody whose whole purpose is to destroy the black community, the black population. Because that's what abortion does. It's primarily targeted to destroy my people. That's what it's targeted for. illegal immigration is targeted for my people. Those black jobs that y'all was getting offended by Trump saying, we got black folks saying the same thing years before Trump said it. Hello. It's all documented. We know what a black job is. We know what a black job is, that Mexicans coming over here, illegal aliens are coming over here taking, that these companies are giving to them at a lower rate of pay because they know that they'll take it. And so they'll take the nigger and send him out. And if this persists and if this continues, we can be right along the Native Americans. We can be right along the Native Indians on our reservations because they're slowly doing it in our communities. But you claim to love us. You claim to love the black community. You don't want to tell them the truth? Girl, shut up. Shut all the way up. But she ain't by herself because she has her coons that she probably identifies with. Aaron probably rocking with these sellouts, these coons, these Sambo niggas. She probably rock with them too. Upper left-hand corner, Pierre. In the middle, D.L. Hughley. Luke. Charlemagne the Fraud. Y'all see him? Ricky Smiley. Stephen A. Smith. Roland Martin, a.k.a. Mr. Bookman from Good Times. Yeah, that's him. You can add some more to this list. Add some more to the list. Steve Harvey need to be in there. I couldn't fit them all. I couldn't fit them all. Steve Harvey in there. J. Drew Sheard, he's in there. He's in there. Luke had said that Kamala didn't care about the black population, didn't care about the black community in 2022, and then said on the video that he interviewed her on a podcast, after having some chicken with her, he changed his mind. I ain't lying, y'all. I don't have to lie about these fools. These fools are straight Sambos. He said after eating chicken, after having some chicken with Kamala, he changed her mind. He changed his mind about her. Nigga. You know what? I there's no sense in me just saying it. I'm not gonna just say it. I'm gonna let Tommy say it.
Who are these niggas?
I cried laughing when I read it.
You know what I'm saying? like, we need to stay away from these niggas.
I don't.
Now, this lady right here, this is, as you see, Muhammad Ali's ex-wife. She's a Trump supporter. We out here. From a principle standpoint, we out here. And she's an avid supporter of Trump. And here's why.
But the fact that the Democrats actually took his title from him, took his passport from him, took everything that he loved most, and that was boxing, stripped him of all of that. No, he wouldn't accept what Kamala says. No.
She was always of Indian heritage, and she was only promoting Indian heritage. I didn't know she was black until a number of years ago when she happened to turn black, and now she wants to be known as black. So I don't know, is she Indian or is she black?
She is always identified as a black woman. She went to a historically black college.
I respect either one, but she obviously doesn't.
You got a cape for her?
All right, Vivek, I want to give you a.
Let me start with say, you see how that was at the NABJ conference, National Association for Black Journalists. Remember that a couple weeks ago? And this woman up here caping for Kamala, talking about she always identified as black. We know that's a lie. I just showed y'all the receipts, and you're going to hear out of Kamala's own mouth in the next clip. Her publicly identify herself as an Asian, as a South Asian or of South Asian descent. Out of her own mouth, she never says anything about being black. But let's go.
A chance to react to that. No doubt it's going to get attention. It already is.
This is Vivek. Wamishmami.
Yeah, so look, on a very personal level, my parents were immigrants to this country, legal immigrants from southern India. Very same part of India that her mother also immigrated from. I think it's a hard fact, Martha, it's just a fact, whether you like it or not, that many Indian Americans in the United States are indeed somewhat offended by the way Kamala has suddenly cast aside the Indian American side of her identity. She leaned into it when she ran for office in California. big Asian American and Indian American population. So she wore that when it was convenient. She's wearing a different identity now when it's politically convenient on an.
Do you see this? This is Vivek. He's Indian. He's Indian, calling Kamala out on her fakery.
National stage. Personally, I don't think we should be relying on these ethnic identities at all. We're actually American. And the problem is when you're Kamala Harris and you actually do lean into your identity politics, then you open the door to that type of criticism. But if you ask me, that shouldn't be how this election is decided one way or another. It should be decided on our own identity as Americans and what our vision is for the future of the country. And the number one thing missing in Kamala Harris's candidacy is that she lacks that vision for the country. That's what we got to focus on.
You hear that? But now that's one person saying it. It's one thing when somebody else says it about you, but it's another thing when you say it about yourself. It's a totally different thing.
I stand before you as the first candidate for Vice President of the United States of South Asian descent.
Do y'all want me to play that one back? Do I need to play that one back for y'all? Do I need to show that one again? Did y'all hear what she just said? Did she anywhere in her statement identify herself as anything other than South Asian? Did anybody hear her say that? Do I need to play it back? If you want me to play it back, I'll play it back again for you. I'll run it back in case some of y'all just came in.
I stand before you as the first candidate for Vice President of the United States of South Asian descent.
That's her. She said that. She said it. She said it. Not moi. She said it. Yeah, dear. Didn't say African or black nowhere. None. Listen, we're just on Kamala, the person. We're trying to see if who she is aligns with biblical principles. That's all. That's all we're doing. So far, it ain't a good look, in my opinion. Not only is she a liar, but she doesn't seem to be wrapped too tight. There's some cookies missing out of the box. I'm not. Listen, I purposely did not put up the. I purposely did not post her infamous unburdened by what has been, because I didn't want my wife to take my kids and leave me. Because she tired of hearing that statement looped around on the news all day long. But the woman ain't wrapped too tight. Is that one of the reasons why she's been hiding? Is that one of the reasons why she don't want to engage Trump in a live debate without any notes? Just going off the dome with what you know to be true? With no teleprompters? Is that why she's running? She learned from her mentor. She learned from her mentor, Joe Biden. But this woman ain't wrapped too tight when it comes to just basic common sense. That's all. There's no way for me to say it.
So you're now no longer are you necessarily keeping those private files in some file cabinet that's locked in the basement of the house. It's on your laptop, and it's then therefore up here in this cloud that exists above us, right?
Mm-hmm. I know y'all think I did not. This is not AI generated. This is not AI generated. This is not. I would not do her like this. I would not craft this kind of obtuseness against anybody like this. This is what she actually believes, where our storage files are kept.
So you're now no longer are you necessarily keeping those private files in some file cabinet that's locked in the basement of the house. It's on your laptop, and it's then therefore up here in this cloud that exists above us, right? Mm-hmm. It's no longer in a physical place.
break it down in layman's terms for people who don't understand what's going on and how can this directly affect the people of the United States.
So Ukraine is a country in Europe. It exists next to another country called Russia. Russia is a bigger country. Russia is a powerful country. Russia decided to invade a smaller country called Ukraine. So basically, that's wrong.
Lord help us. Lord help us.
Yeah, he's right. Because he's the only one who can. We just talking about Kamala the person. Kamala the person. You know, she wants to identify so much with us black folk that Angela Rye, I believe Angela Rye was interviewing her and she was asking her who's the best rapper alive, and you remember this story.
Best rapper alive.
Tupac.
He's not alive. You say he lives on.
But not alive. I know.
And notice. They always got to come to her rescue. Best rapper alive. She didn't say best rapper dead or alive. She said best rapper alive.
Best rapper alive.
Tupac.
He's not alive. You say he lives on.
But not alive. I know. I keep just.
But she, remember, this is the same woman. Remember in part one, this is the same woman. Graduated in 1986, and was listening to Snoop and Tupac. Yep. Listening to Snoop and Tupac. And both of them came out in 91 and 93. But that's what she was listening to when she was in college, smoking weed. That's what she said on the Breakfast Club. That's what she said about her smoking weed. Best rapper alive. Now, let me say this, because this was something I found rather interesting as I go on. People want to, for whatever you want to say about it, people want to talk about Candace Owens and saying that she's not black and want to say that Kamala Harris is black. But I got to give Candace Owens her propers and her flowers in this one regard when it comes to black culture and hip hop, or when it comes to black culture and rap, because when she was interviewing Kanye West, I was impressed. I was impressed. She knows more about the black culture, knows more about the hip hop community, and whose bars is top tier from a lyrical standpoint than Kamala ever could. When people were asking her to give her favorite rappers and things like that, or even on the Breakfast Club, she couldn't even give any. They were feeding her the answers. But Candace was holding her own when she was reciting, lyrics from one of Jay-Z's songs. Check this out.
So first off, when I was coming on the plane, my podcast was on shuffle, and Jay-Z's song came on. It was dun 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 dun. He says, "Oh, I know what it was." He says, "I dumbed down my audience to double my dollars. They criticize me for it, yet they all yell holla. If skills sold, truth be told, I'd probably be lyrically Talib Kweli. Truthfully, I want to rhyme like common sense, but I did 5 mil, and I ain't been rhyming like common sense. When your sense got that much in common, and you've been hustling since, the only perception for perception go with what makes sense. Since I know what I'm up against, we as rappers must decide what's most important, and I can't help the poor if I'm one of them. So I got rich and gave back. To me, that's the win-win."
I mean, gotta give it. Hey, ask Kamala to do that. Ask her to recite a bar. She couldn't. And I think that's enough dealing with the person of Kamala. We pretty much know that she's a liar. She's a fake. She doesn't. Her life of who she is, what she represents, does not align with biblical values and biblical principles. Right. So that's Kamala, the person. Not too bright. She doesn't have any principles or godly morals. She plays the role of a fraud and a chameleon. She tries to blend and fit in when she doesn't really fit in. I mean, it's just all fake. This is all a sham, all a show. She's not genuine. Can we at least say that in this regard. As far as Kamala the person goes, she's fake. Again, if you're just joining, this is part 2. Because she's black, we're talking about Kamala Harris and why I'm not with her, and why, if you are a Christian, you should not be with her either. Hit the like button, share the video. Again, moderators, let people know if they want to support this channel financially. Show them the options. Please do not use Super Chat, because Super Chat will not monetize my content, because I'm dealing with controversial issues like this. So please utilize the donation links that are below this video. We do appreciate that. Thank you very much. So now, we talked about Kamala the person. Let's deal now with Kamala the prosecutor. Let's talk about her prosecutorial record. How was Kamala as a prosecutor? Was she a godly prosecutor? Was she a fair prosecutor? Was she a just prosecutor? Was she an unbiased prosecutor? Was she a principled prosecutor? Let's let the word of God speak on it. Isaiah chapter 29, verse 20 to 21. This is a millennial text, but the principles still ring true and clear. The Bible says, "For the ruthless will come to an end, and the scorner will be finished. Indeed, all who are intent on doing evil will be cut off, who cause a person to be indicted by a word, false accusations. Those who convict the innocent by their false testimony will disappear." Where you at, Jamal True Love? He can testify to this, what Kamala Harris did to him. Who cause a person to be indicted by a word and ensnare him who adjudicates at the gate and defraud the one in the right with meaningless arguments. A similar fate awaits those who use trickery to pervert justice and who tell lies to destroy the innocent. Yeah. How was Kamala? How does Kamala's life line up biblically as a prosecutor, as an AG, as a DA? How? Does it line up? Does it line up? Does it line up? Well, let's see. Let's see. Carmod Connolly, a black man who was wrongfully convicted of murder in 1989 after spending 18 years in prison. Exculpatory evidence completely cleared him, but Kamala Harris refused to set him free and took him back to trial. Connolly said, quote, "Kamala ruined my life, a lot of lives," and described her as an, quote, "opportunist," end quote. Notice, he didn't just say Kamala ruined just my life, period. No, he said Kamala ruined my life, a lot of lives. A lot is more than one, isn't it? And he's not the only one who said that. We're going to find out who else had the same sentiment and assessment of Ms. Harris as well, too. As a DA, consider her record as San Francisco's district attorney from 2004 to 2011. Ms. Harris was criticized in 2010 for withholding information about a police laboratory technician who had been accused of, quote, intentionally sabotaging, end quote, her work and stealing drugs from the lab. After a memo surfaced showing that Ms. Harris's deputies knew about the technician's wrongdoing and recent conviction, but failed to alert defense lawyers, a judge condemned Ms. Harris's indifference to the systemic violation of the defendant's constitutional rights. Time after time, when progressive urged her to embrace criminal justice reforms as a district attorney and then the state's attorney general, Ms. Harris opposed them or stayed silent. Most troubling, Ms. Harris fought tooth and nail to uphold wrongful convictions that had been secured through official misconduct that included evidence tampering, false testimony, and the suppression of crucial information by prosecutors. Ms. Harris also championed state legislation under which parents whose children were found to be habitually truant in elementary school could be prosecuted, despite concerns that it would disproportionately affect low-income people of color. This is the prosecutorial record of Ms. Kamala Harris as a DA. As DA. This is who we are dealing with. Ms. Kamala Harris, District Attorney, even Attorney General Kamala Harris. Her prosecutorial record was also responsible for the jailing and arrest and home invasion, because it wasn't lawful. She used her prosecutorial powers to enact a search warrant and had her law enforcement officers orchestrate a raid on David Daleidon's home. I'll let Mr. Daleidon tell you better than I could.
In April of 2016, at the behest of Planned Parenthood, Kamala Harris ordered a search warrant served on my home in Orange County. I think it was a total of 11 agents of the California Department of Justice sent by Kamala Harris came in, overturned my entire one-bedroom apartment. They seized all of the video recording equipment, all of my computer equipment, everything that was, all the electronic equipment that was used to do the undercover filming. Fortunately, there were backup hard drives, and attorneys had copies of stuff and other things. So they didn't take anything that I absolutely needed in order to continue to do my work, but they primarily were looking for the videos, and they were looking for the original videos. We have in the investigator notes from the Attorney General's office now, they recorded in their case notes Planned Parenthood specifically requesting of Kamala Harris's office that they would specifically go in and seize the videos from me. So they were trying to take all the raw footage away and trying to do a huge cover-up. They weren't successful at doing that, but that's just one of many things that Kamala Harris, as Attorney General of California, was willing to do to put the powers of her law enforcement office at the service of the interests of a powerful and favored political backer at Planned Parenthood. I just saw her recently on, I think it was MSNBC, talking about the confirmation hearings of William Barr, who's the new nominee for Attorney General. And Senator Harris was opining that really nominee Barr, if confirmed, probably she thinks should recuse himself from the Russia investigation because of some op-eds he's written about the Mueller probe or something like that. Well, when Kamala Harris had the Planned Parenthood case, which was the investigation of me, brought before her as Attorney General, while she was running for U.S. Senate, while Planned Parenthood in California was contributing to her political campaign and she was fundraising for them, fundraising off of her goodwill with Planned Parenthood for her senatorial campaign, did she recuse herself from the Planned Parenthood investigation? No, she didn't. In fact, she didn't even set up, they sometimes talk about having a wall of separation in the prosecutor's office in order to make sure that there's no improper crossover. Not only did she not recuse, did she not set up a wall of separation, she consciously and willfully involved herself directly and personally in the Planned Parenthood case. She had an in-person meeting with 6 Planned Parenthood executives from California in Los Angeles 2 weeks before the raid on my apartment. We have the action item notes and the email from her assistant from that meeting.
Wow.
They show that among the Planned Parenthood folks present, 2 of them were witnesses in the criminal investigation that Kamala Harris's office was orchestrating against me and Sandra. And they show that the agenda items that Kamala Harris discussed with those Planned Parenthood witnesses and representatives at that meeting included both Planned Parenthood's political agenda in California and issues in the criminal investigation. So there was a direct mixing of her political roles and political agenda and campaign agenda and political agenda of an outside third party, directly mixed in, inseparable from her role as a law enforcement officer.
And we can't forget about Jamal True Love.
Never in a million years I would have thought that they were going to charge me for Zell's murder. I never talked to no detective, no police officer, no DA, nobody.
Just arrested and then charged?
Arrested and charged, that's it.
Was the first time you saw Kamala Harris in person the day that the verdict was issued?
She showed up at the two most pivotal times in this first trial, and me being convicted and me being sentenced. She wanted to be present.
How many of y'all remember this story about Jamal Truelove? He's been on a few podcasts as of late, and it seems that the mainstream media does not want to talk about this, but this was one of the highly recognized cases that he ended up suing California and won $13 million lawsuit, serving 6 years out of a 50-year life sentence.
For a celebration of a conviction.
That's what it felt like, celebration?
A celebration, that's what it felt like. The reactions I get when I tell people my story is, they say it's the worst nightmare. You know, it's the closest thing to dying.
Jamal, I'm going to read you a quote real quick. The job of a progressive prosecutor is to look out for those overlooked, to speak up for those whose voices aren't being heard, to see and address the causes of crime, not just their consequences, and to shine a light on the inequality and unfairness that lead to injustice. It is to recognize that not everyone needs punishment, that what many need, quite obviously, is help. Kamala Harris wrote that in her book, The Truths We Hold. Does that sound consistent with the kind of with the brand of justice that you saw administered by offices that she was running?
It definitely sounds like Kamala Harris right now as a senator, but at the time of her being the head district attorney of San Francisco, that is almost polar opposite of what I felt and what our community felt in San Francisco.
What did you know about Kamala Harris? What did you know about San Francisco having a black DA?
Nobody in the hood ever worried or focused on the DA position in general, but people did focus on it just a tad bit, that it was black, and feeling like, okay, this black lady in office, Kamala Harris, she was gonna understand where we come from, you know, and have more of a sympathetic way of prosecuting people that come from our communities who have been plagued with no opportunities.
In July 2007, what's going on in your life at that point?
I had recently just came off of I Love New York, and also that's when my friend SaikoWoods got killed.
More than a year goes by and no one's been arrested in the case. You hadn't even been questioned.
Haven't even been questioned, no. The police was still, you know, trying to get a conviction by all means necessary. When I was arrested for it, the community knew I didn't do it. And it was here we go again. See, this is why we don't trust, you know, law enforcement, because it gets to a point where somebody who didn't do something goes to jail for it. I don't have no history of crime. What's up, boy? I have a history of being around in the community, but that doesn't mean that I'm a suspect. I'm like, oh man, I'll be out within 72 hours. They're gonna figure this out. They're gonna clear this up.
And then when you found out what the evidence was that they supposedly had you on, there wasn't much there. Can you describe what it was?
They had a woman saying that she seen me kill Zelle. The second witness that they had really wasn't a witness at all. She said anything that the police officers wanted her to say, and they said that her recollection of the events was extremely credible. So that's what ultimately got the arrest warrant.
The District Attorney of San Francisco, Kamala Harris, appeared in the courtroom during your trial twice.
Yeah, the two times that Kamala Harris showed up to my trial was when I got convicted, and also when they laid down the sentencing.
When you saw her on the day that the verdict was handed down, did you take that as a bad sign?
It felt to me that she was well aware about my case, and she was there to set her presence, almost take pride in getting a conviction. When I put in my appeal, the people that's fighting against my appeal to keep the conviction is the Attorney General office. I learned it reading,
Yeah, here that's the same way we just remember reading in Isaiah, right? Isaiah 29. Just finished how we read that. Unjust lawyers, unjust laws, people trying to force individuals to admit that they're wrong, making up false charges. Yeah, all of that.
Their reply to my appeal, and you see Kamala Harris' name at the bottom. And now it's starting to feel a little personal.
When you win the $13.1 million, it's a massive settlement. Did you feel like that was enough?
There's not an amount that could get back those 7 years. That 6.5 years that I spent in prison. But instead of me coming home feeling like I was a victim, I wanted to prove that I'm a survivor, and I will not let my story go unheard. I'm not necessarily saying I'm looking for an apology, but some acknowledgement from her that she could have messed up will be, of course, that'll be huge. You could have made some mistakes. You could have missed some things. For me, it was a big...
This wasn't no mistake, Jamal. This was definitely intentional. Clearly intentional.
Miss. I had life in prison. I've met people in prison that was wrongfully convicted. I want my story to be out to provoke reform ultimately. Beyond that, I want to be able to be who I want to be. I'm an actor, I'm a musician, I'm a father. I'm more than this person that was framed. I'm more than this person that was wrongfully convicted.
Yeah, I agree there. He needs to be out. He should be one of the main voices in the Black community. Speaking out. He should be in every church, speaking out and warning Black voters to stay the heck away from this woman. I mean, clearly. Is there something happened? Somebody suspended my stream? Somebody said my stream suspended? Let's see. Your stream has been temporarily blocked because we detected video. Let's see. Yeah. If you plan to continue, let's go back here. Let's see what it's doing here. Yeah, they just suspended my stream. Let's see. Let me try to do this. I'm gonna come back in. And I'm gonna start it up where we left off at. Let's do that. Okay. I'm gonna start it off. I'm gonna start it back in, and we're going to continue where we left off. So let me end it right here. I'm gonna end it right here, and then we'll start it on the other side. Anybody else? If you cannot see me, I'm gonna go ahead and end the stream, and then I'll go ahead and come back on the other side. I'm just gonna do that.